Michael Turner woke before dawn, his eyes snapping open to the faint hum of the ceiling fan and the soft breathing of his wife beside him. He had always been a light sleeper, but lately, his rest had been even more fragile. Something in the house, in his life, felt off-kilter, as if he were standing on a floorboard about to snap. Beside him, Emily shifted in her sleep. Her phone, resting on the nightstand, buzzed softly. Not once, but twice. At 4:12 a.m. Michael turned his head, watching the dim light of the screen flash against the dark wall. She didn't stir. She never used to get messages at that hour. His chest tightened. He thought about reaching for it. Just a glance. Just to know. But instead, he stared at the ceiling, forcing himself to stay still, even as suspicion coiled around him like a rope tightening on his throat. Outside, the first hints of morning crept into Nashville, the city he had grown to love for its charm and grit. Their neighborhood sat just 10 minutes from downtown, close enough to hear the faint thrum of music from Broadway on summer nights, but far enough to feel suburban, safe. At least, it used to. Michael and Emily had been married for 12 years. They met in college at the University of Tennessee, where he studied architecture and she majored in English literature. Now, at 35, Michael worked for a mid-size architectural firm downtown, his days filled with blueprints, city permits, and client meetings. Emily taught English at a local high school, her passion for literature once the thing that had drawn him in. She had a way of quoting lines from novels in casual conversation, as if fiction and reality were intertwined. Their life together was steady. A 2-story brick house in East Nashville. A dog, Cooper, a golden retriever. Sunday barbecues with neighbors. Vacations to the Gulf Coast. To anyone looking in, they were the picture of a successful, happy couple. But lately, Michael had felt her drifting. The small gestures, her hand lingering on his shoulder, the smile she gave when he walked through the door, had begun to vanish. She was quieter at dinner, often distracted, her phone never far from reach. And then there were the nights she stayed late at school, claiming she had papers to grade or a meeting with other teachers. Michael wanted to believe her. He wanted to believe everything was fine. But that 4:12 a.m. text replayed in his mind like a warning he couldn't ignore. It started with little things. One evening, Michael noticed Emily's perfume stronger than usual, even though she claimed she had come straight home from school. Another night, her laughter floated down the hallway as she texted someone in the bedroom, the door half closed. When he asked who it was, she simply said, "Oh, just Lisa, her friend from work." But Lisa never texted at 4 a.m. Michael told himself he was imagining things, that stress at work was making him paranoid. But once suspicion takes root, it grows like ivy through every thought, every silence. He began watching her more closely. The way she smiled at her phone. The way she angled the screen away from him. The sudden trips to the gym, even though she had never cared for exercise before. One evening, when Emily was in the shower, Michael picked up her phone. Locked. A new passcode. One she hadn't told him. He set it down carefully, his hands shaking. "Emily," he said one night over dinner, his fork paused above the chicken she had barely touched. "Is everything okay with us?" She blinked, caught off guard. "Of course. Why would you ask that?" "You've been different. Distracted." She forced a smile. "It's just school. End of the semester. I've got so much grading, it feels like I'm drowning." Michael studied her face. She looked tired, yes. But there was something else in her eyes, something she quickly masked. "Okay," he said softly. "Just wanted to check." She reached across the table and touched his hand. "I love you, Michael. Don't ever doubt that." Her words should have comforted him. But they didn't. 2 weeks later, on a chilly Friday night, Emily said she had a faculty dinner. Michael kissed her cheek as she left, the faint smell of her new perfume clinging to his shirt. He waited 30 minutes, then got in his truck. Nashville's streets buzzed with weekend energy, honky-tonk bars spilling live music, tourists in cowboy boots stumbling down Broadway. Michael's headlights cut through it all as he followed her car at a careful distance. She didn't drive to the school. She didn't drive to a restaurant. She drove to a hotel off I-65. Michael parked across the lot, his stomach dropping as he watched her step out of the car, dressed in a black dress he hadn't seen before. She checked her phone, then disappeared through the lobby doors. Minutes later, another car pulled up. A man got out, tall, broad-shouldered, maybe late 30s. Michael's chest burned as he watched the man follow her inside. He sat there for nearly an hour, gripping the steering wheel until his knuckles whitened. Every minute felt like fire eating through his veins. When she finally emerged, hair slightly tousled, face glowing in a way he hadn't seen in months, Michael knew. There was no mistake. No misunderstanding. Michael didn't confront her that night. He couldn't. Instead, he lay awake beside her, listening to her even breathing, the scent of that same perfume filling the air. Every fiber of him wanted to shake her awake, to demand answers, to scream. But another part of him, colder, sharper, told him to wait. To plan. The next day, Emily smiled at him over breakfast, as if nothing were wrong. She kissed his cheek before leaving for another grading session. Michael simply nodded, his face unreadable. Inside, he was unraveling. He spent his days at work staring blankly at blueprints, his mind replaying every laugh, every touch, every kiss she had given someone else. The betrayal hollowed him out. One evening, while Emily showered, Michael finally broke. He took her phone from the counter, opened his laptop, and plugged it in. He wasn't a tech genius, but he knew enough. Within minutes, he had bypassed her passcode through a simple recovery program. Messages flooded the screen. Dozens. Hundreds. Between Emily and a man named Ryan. The words blurred before his eyes, affectionate nicknames, confessions of longing, plans to meet again. One line hit him hardest. When I'm with you, I feel alive again. He doesn't make me feel that way anymore. Michael's chest constricted, a raw, choking sound tearing from his throat. He slammed the laptop shut before he could read more. That night, Michael poured himself 2 glasses of whiskey. When Emily walked into the kitchen, her hair still damp from the shower, he slid one across the counter. We need to talk. Her eyes flickered, just for a moment, before she forced a calm expression. About what? Ryan. The glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the tile. For a long moment, neither spoke. The silence roared louder than any scream. Finally, she whispered, Michael. How long? His voice was low, steady. Tears welled in her eyes. A few months. He laughed bitterly. A few months. And all this time, you've been lying to my face. I didn't mean for it to happen. Don't. Don't you dare say that. His voice cracked, years of love breaking apart in a single moment. The days that followed were a blur of rage and grief. Emily moved into the guest room. Michael avoided her, spending nights at the office or driving aimlessly through the city, past the neon lights of Broadway, the quiet banks of the Cumberland River, the neighborhoods filled with families who seemed whole. Divorce papers came quickly. Neither of them fought it. But the betrayal cut deeper than Michael expected. It wasn't just the end of a marriage. It was the shattering of trust, the loss of the life they had built together. Emily tried to apologize, to explain, but her words were empty. He couldn't hear them anymore. On the day he signed the divorce papers, Michael drove to the hotel parking lot where it had all begun. He sat there for hours, staring at the building, replaying the night he had watched her walk inside. Revenge burned in his chest, but he knew it would change nothing. Instead, he whispered to himself, "You're free now." He drove home, packed the last of his things, and left the house they had shared for 12 years. As he pulled onto the highway, Nashville's skyline glowing against the night, Michael felt something he hadn't felt in months. Relief. The betrayal had broken him, yes. But it had also freed him. And as the city lights blurred in his rearview mirror, he realized the truth: sometimes love doesn't die with a bang, it dies quietly, in the silence of 4:12 a.m.